been in crypto like a long time, seen lots of cycles, and also exciting to see like stable coins getting now like a wider reach and better audience on what they are capable to do. And most probably, as well as seeing like after Dora hacks, stable hacks, like a few great projects coming out of this, right? And hopefully you guys can get like a good insight into like how to secure your stack better. And of course, we can't go into like every detail. I guess this is like obvious, but I try to make it like as the foundational level as best as possible covered. So you can get out of this workshop. And I don't want to call it a workshop because we're not interacting that much with each other. But getting out of this meeting was like a good feeling of like maybe some execution points as well, how you can actually act on your infrastructure right now and maybe in the future. And I just had like a quote from myself, the last days, most exploits aren't surprises, they're just ignored warnings. Which is like mostly the case. You might have seen warnings before, you might ignore them, or you might haven't seen them. So it's also good to like do some prevention of like what kind of early signs you can see that something is going sideways. And with me is like Michael in this meeting. And maybe you introduce yourself, Michael, please.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the workshop. I'm Michael, leading BB partnerships at Softstack. And the reason why I really wanted to join Stable Hacks and to partner with Tenety is kind of because Softstack is a bit unique in a sense where we combine security and compliance. And we have worked with many institutions for many years. And it's quite rare to see this in the industry, in the wild west of Web3. But whether we like it or not, if we want the adoption of blockchain technology, we have to accept that it has to be regulated and compliant. So that's why we're literally looking forward to all your builds, to all your solutions, to all your projects, and to see how we can support you guys there. At the end of the session, we also have a Q&A, and we have some perks there as well for all of you. So make sure to stay till the end. And I'm handing over to Yannick because he's way more technical than I am. So you will learn more from him than from me. Yannick?
All right, thank you. Yeah, let's give you like a quick rundown on like what Softstack is doing. I mean, we're on the market since 2017 now. Done a rebranding as well. So we've been known for a different company, which was called Chain Salting before. There was like some decisions we've made internally so that we also supported a wider reach, wider audience in our services that we offered. So what we're doing is like software development and cybersecurity in our company, which is like also like a kind of like unique set you won't find in the market so far, which also gives you like an idea of like how our auditors are thinking about like your infrastructure and also like your code base, because they are actively also software developing in different products. So they've seen lots of stuff in the wild and been able to also advise you on better best practices or like better solutions for your infrastructure or your code base. So we've doing this for a while, and of course also worked with lots of companies before. On different sets, on different scopes. And also like some stable coins are inside that client list, and also infrastructure which are serving stable coins, like the biggest custodians like Bitgo and Anchorage, which having like most of the amounts of stable coins within their custody. And then welcome you to the workshop. Don't want to talk much about our company. You can do your own research, and hopefully like after this workshop, you get like something valuable out of this. Even if it's like if you stay longer, and at the end you get like some bonus materials, which I will tell you afterwards. Some cool stuff actually. And yeah, we work with Tenety together to make this workshop happening. And this is based into like Stable Hacks. I'm not sure if like everyone here in this workshop is from Stable Hacks, because we also distributed this in our channels. So there might be someone not from Stable Hacks right now. So give you like a quick rundown on what Stable Hacks is. It's like a hackathon where you're working on integration of stablecoins together with Tenety and other partners. in this hackathon. So really cool to see afterwards, like maybe getting some insights or links if someone likes to talk about like what they're building on right now. Would be really keen to see that. Of course, from my heart, bottom of my heart, like I'm also a builder, and doing this for a while now. So I'm like to see like new stuff, and always like getting excited when it's coming to new innovation, especially in the stablecoin space. And who is this workshop for? I'm not sure if there's some issuers here in our workshop. Most probably not. There's like not many stablecoins out there. Even if you think about it, there's like maybe like a handful of stablecoins which are like having like the massive amount of volume on the market. Just to name them, USDC and USDT. And mostly, what are these issuers doing within the daily business? Are minting, burning of supply, reserve management. They have a lot of compliance enforcement that they need to do. And the biggest headache, most probably the custody of the funds. And I guess most of you guys are on the integrator side. So you're mostly like working on DDApps, protocols, wallets, maybe payment options, yield opportunities, and rely on complex business logics behind your product. But both sides definitely introduce like different attack surfaces, and we will cover them in our workshop. And I just scratching the surface, so don't get me wrong if I can't get into like all the details. But if you have at the end of the workshops have any questions, we can go into like a bit of more detail. And happy to answer your questions afterwards. So I got like a quick interaction. So this is like feeling kind of a workshop. And I would be happy to see your feedback. I give you like a couple of minutes, and then like 1-2 minutes, and then like to see like your result. Just scan the QR code. There's no scam behind it. So don't be afraid. It's just like a voting site. And then, yeah, keen to see like, and also this gives me like an insight and how I structure this workshop a bit better, or like go into a few more details. So stopping here for a moment. Also scanning the QR code and seeing your results. Okay, first results coming in. Oh, there's lots of projects running in production. That's amazing. Exciting to see. In testing as well. Okay. Awesome. So I guess most of you shared your vote already. So we got like, oh, it's dropping again. Okay, 38% is like, so it's like half of half, like is in production and in testing. So we got like a good mixture here, which is really cool to see. Awesome. Thank you for participating in this quick routing round. And then a few facts and figures so you can better understand like why security is that much important for your infrastructure as an issuer and also as like an integrator. So I've just updated this numbers just today, and I was actually like really impressed. I haven't expected that, to be honest. So the monthly stablecoin volume is like $9.1 trillion in transfer volume. This also includes like exchanges and like all the crazy bots which are trading every day, million of funds back and forth. So it might be not like really reflecting like the retail payments which are happening in stablecoins, which are much, much lower, but it's also reflecting like what kind of volume we're talking about, right, in the stablecoin space. And there's like 299 billion market cap right now on all stablecoins involved, 50 million monthly active addresses, which is quite impressive. But if we're thinking about like the current space, most of that might be bots. And I just seen a phrase on the internet, and it was talking about like most of the internet traffic is already bots, already agents doing stuff, and not any human interaction. So this actual number might be a bit bigger than like actual humans having like an active address involved. So we got 240 million holders, which is like also an impressive number in my eyes. And if you see like the comparison to like maybe known networks that you have in the traditional financial world is like, for example, Visa has like 16 trillion per year volume, which is like, if you compare it to the stablecoin monthly volume, I would say a tiny bit. That's also gives you like an insight why Visa and Swift is like joining this space now. They see like there's a huge market cap getting cut out from their piece in the future. Swift network 12 trillion per month. And haven't heard about this one before, but after the research, this is like the biggest US-based transfer network for like high volume, like high amounts of US dollars. It's 1 quadrillion per year, which is quite impressive, to be honest. And then if you see like these numbers, and you will understand like most of them, of course, is like also getting lost for deep hacks and lost in hacks and scams and fraud. Just to name them, you might heard about like the Terra Luna crash. It's always gives like PSD a bit if I'm talking about it. So it was probably the worst crash deep hack of stable coins in the history. We also got like lost in hacks and scams and fraud, smart contract vulnerabilities, private key compromises, the usual stuff, I would say, which happening on a daily basis. And what was interesting in the research was as well before the workshop to see like after interviewing a few of our clients and seeing like some active projects running on stablecoin rails, less of them have like real-time monitoring actually, which is I would say like quite concerning, and I would say this has to change in the industry as well. That we like fixing this blind spot, also making sure like you are always aware of like what kind of traffic is hitting your DDAP, for example, or your infrastructure. What kind of transactions do you have on your stable coins if you're an issuer? Also minting spikes, suspicious transfers. Also, what is interesting, like DNS poisoning, which might happen to your DDAP, so that you always are in control of like changes from outside, but also from inside. So we're coming later on like a different slide on like what kind of insider attacks you might face if you're getting bigger with your product and you maybe run out of going out of the stable hacks and then build the next unicorn. What you have to be aware of to make sure you always stay secure. Also, like maybe known, most of the exploits are not smart contract bugs. Actually, most of them are like social engineering attacks, key compromises, Oracle manipulation, backend exploits. System design makes sense, but code security as well. So let's give you like guys like a quick agenda. We go a bit into like jurisdiction, legal layer. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give you like any advices on this, but just to give you like a heads up, like where you are heading if you're building like if you're building on stablecoin rails. The compliance layer, secure tech stack design, key management and custody. This might be more like for like the issuers, but also if you like running any bots in your backend or any backend infrastructure which is handling like automatic transfers. Hopefully no one is like inside this room and having like an end file with a clear private key inside. That's something common what we're seeing in the wild, which might happen if you're like just starting working on your DDAP, which is okay, but not in production, hopefully. And then like common attack vectors, dependency risk, and monitoring and detection. And then of course like a small bonus, so you can get out of this with like something for free, some giveaway. So let's get like a bit into jurisdiction and legal stuff. I know this is like the most annoying topic, most probably. And the world is changing, of course. When we started with crypto, there was less rules, but also there have been still rules all the time, right? You had to, back in the days, you had to like apply for traditional finance rules, and which was always hard. And we always had headaches about this, like how do we comply with all this old traditional finance stuff, right? It's not, does it apply for us? Does it not apply for us? If something goes wrong, of course it applies for you. If it's going all right, you might come away with that. But right now, like the world is changing in a way. We're getting legal frameworks, especially like in Europe, where we are based, in Germany. We got like a really great framework, which is called MiCA framework, MiCA regulations. I just call it great because we've been like really deep into the trenches of MiCA regulation. And we see like this framework is like really well done and like really thought out. Like, you know what kind of license you have to apply. And of course, like if you apply for the license, I know the new headaches is starting, but it's really clear like what is your path forward, like what kind of service you offer. Are you like a crypto service provider? So you know what kind of like licensing you have to apply for, right? So which is like gives you a clear guidance, and you don't need to have like any sleepless nights because you don't know what is the way forward. You might still need to like spend a lot of money on legal, even if it looks clear on paper. But just want to say, like, it is quite clear, whatever restriction you choose, what kind of legal infrastructure you should choose. And still like a big fan of Europe, and especially with the MiCA regulation. If I would choose a different restriction, I don't think like there's any other restriction which I would choose, because it's quite clear here what kind of licensing you should apply for with your service. Of course, the US is currently, that's why I said like ongoing. Of course, there's an MTL license in all states, and you have to apply actually state by state. So it's like a nightmare actually. We work with like a payment fintech app, which also integrated crypto into their app, and then they applied like state by state for each license. The MTL license is like a nightmare, I can tell you. So in Europe, it's quite clear. You get one license. You choose like if you got like an other token. In this case, if you got a stable token or like an art token, you know that you have to submit your white paper and what kind of licenses you have to apply for. So it's quite clear. And if you like a crypto asset service provider, you know that you have to apply for a CASP license, which is also clear and easy to understand. Singapore, same thing. They got like since a while also like the normal licensing for crypto service providers. And now since a few years also a stablecoin framework. UAE is catching up as well. They got a really good WASP license framework. Can't complain about that one. We got some clients which are applied for that. It was actually not too hard. Of course, takes time and legal advice, but compared to like Europe, it was quite easy to get there in and set up your company in the crypto space. Hong Kong, they're currently working on an upcoming stablecoin issue license regime. Right, and for like integrators, usual stuff, you have to apply for a license depending on what you're offering. But as soon as you're like handling any cryptocurrencies as a transmitter, then you have to apply for these licenses. And this applies for most of the DDApps actually. Even if you're non-custodial based, you still have most probably some back-end tasks where you are handling some transfers of funds, which are touching at some point also your users. So make sure that even if you're like right now building, make sure keep this in mind. It might not apply right now because you're not in production yet. Even if you have like a few users, you're already like needs to think about this licensing as soon as possible. And even you might think now, okay, let's go to the Cayman Islands or BVI. Sorry for that, but as soon as you get like users from the US or users from the European Union, you have to apply for this licensing. You might come away with that for a while, but I don't think that this might be for long, and you might face some legal issues at some point. So it does make sense. So if you're right now running something in production, and I've seen there have been like 50% running in production, and you haven't applied for any licenses, or you think you're like on the Cayman Islands and safe in front of this, maybe think about like a relocation into a different country. You might need to pay more tax, but the tax comes also with some benefits. So, all right. So a good thing to understand. Most teams don't realize they are building regulated infrastructure until it's too late, because the architecture already defines the obligations. So make sure once you're building, think about what comes next. All right, one quick interactive thing with the pool. I would like to understand, like, do you feel you choose the right restriction and have your compliance requirements under control? And there's like a few options to choose from. So I'm really keen to understand what's going on. Okay, already fucked up. Okay, there's some realizing now. Okay, need to think twice about what I've been building. Interesting. Awesome. It's never too late, by the way. Fully confident, amazing. Most of you guys are fully confident. That's good to hear. All right. Awesome. Thank you for the feedback. So everyone is mostly fully confident. That's perfect. Great to hear. All right. So if you are building, like in most of you guys, what I've seen, building like kind of like an integration into stablecoin rails, whatever this might be, and happy afterwards to see like, or maybe put it into the chat, your company name, maybe the link to your repository. So I can see like what you're actually building. But most of you most probably are like integrators. So there's a few things you need to think about, like once you're starting your product, and it might not apply for everyone. So just like this phase of what we're touching here. So there might be like KYC, KYB onboarding that you might need to do, and especially like if depending on the restriction as well. And of course, yeah, share the slides afterwards. You can afterwards like leave your email address and then get all the perks from this workshop. Transaction monitoring, of course, this is really important as well. Like as soon as you have like yield opportunities in your DDAP or like whatever you're offering, like a payment rails within your product. Well, there's so many options, so many opportunities right now what you could build. But all the things when you like have transactions in your product, you have to do like transaction monitoring and see like what is happening within your transactions. And also help you to like identify like risk surfaces, like if there's money laundering happening within your DDAP, you might get into like problems. And you might have to stop this as long as it's possible for you. So yeah, IP and geo use restrictions. This also applies what I've talked about, like depending where you got your license and what kind of services you offer, you might need to restrict IP addresses or like geolocations. I think we've seen that with Polymarket. Like here, for example, in Germany, we can't access Polymarket without an VPN. And this is definitely like something you should keep in mind and maybe apply right now to your product to make sure like you can legally say like and have evidence for it that you are able to restrict geolocations. And this applies more like for issuers of stablecoins, but also if you're running a protocol that you are capable to blacklist or freeze accounts, especially like if you having any transaction happening inside your protocol or as like an issuer. Pause mechanisms, not also good for yourself if something gets sideways. It's also good for anything when you might have like any upgrades that you might want to do and you need to stop like all the transaction happening within your protocol. But also if like you have like an emergency switch within your auditing, within your monitoring tool. Audit logs reporting, also good. Have always like make sure like that your infrastructure is having proper logging. Also your users like connected wallets are all locked, and you make sure like that you know at every point in time like what's happening, what's had happened in the past, and what's happening right now on your infrastructure. And then, of course, compliance must be enforceable in code, possible like on your smart contract side, but also possible on any backend side what you're running. So if you get like an audit by like an external party, for example, also like your financial institution, which might come and like wants to see like how you enforce your compliance, especially if you apply for a license as like a crypto service provider or like in a stablecoin issuer, you have to make sure like you can like prove that and have enough evidence that your compliance is enforceable on your code side. And then definitely scratching just as a face, what is like, how does the secure tech stack design look like? Your smart contracts, if you have smart contracts, like keep it as minimal as possible. And I know it's hard. Sometimes we like to over-engineer, especially if you have some developers. make it as minimal as possible. Someone will thank you later, at least if it's the auditor or like someone who like has to integrate the protocol into the backend. Your smart contracts, get it audited, and it doesn't need to be audited by a third party at some point. Like make sure like internally you have at least like two independent resources in your team, or like someone else who is not actively working on your smart contract, for example, but is capable to read code and like does just have like a second look at it. And then of course, like we all got tools right now which are get in some degree of intelligence, I would say, like Claude, or like if you're working with other models, just let it run on your code base and like see what's happening. And that also saves you maybe like get like at least a few percentage out of your smart contract to get it more secure. That's some advice I can give you. Strict role separation on your smart contract is really important. And then, of course, like for your backend infrastructure, make sure you got like proper authentication of your developers. If it's possible for you, and depending on the size of your company, make sure like all your team members are working on virtual machines. I know it's like can get quite expensive, especially for the developers, because they might need like some proper machines. But it will save you like a lot of headaches at the end of the day, because you can always, and the developers can come with their own devices, especially like if you, like most of the companies in Web3, like working with remote teams, let them all run on virtual machines. And so you have like always control of the data which is stored within that virtual machines, and at least to some degree. And you can switch off these machines, and you have like a better understanding of what's going on in your infrastructure. Otherwise, you get like lots of devices, and even if they are like shipped by your company to like a developer, you never know what's happening on this device if you not have like proper controls. So that makes a lot of things easier for you at the end of the day, especially like data leakage. And then always structure your whole infrastructure as zero trust designs. Never trust yourself at the same time. So this is something I can also give as an advice. Then for the custody, if you like handling any funds in your backend, make sure it's not like a private key in an environment file. This is something you can definitely do better. Think about like different ways, like in MPC network might be a bit over engineered. Even like having like simple multi-signature make things easier and also more secure. And then think about like, might this be like a task which you'd like to outsource, like to like custody providers like BitGo or Equinix Digital, for example. And this might save you some headaches in the future, because this company is doing this on a daily business, and it's less attack surface than when you need to do all these things on your own in your backend, and this might be not your core business. So think about to outsource this. Just a kind of advice. As well, like monitoring, we talked about that one as well. Security is defined by architecture, not audits alone. So make sure like once you think about your architecture, think about all the security aspects that can happen to your infrastructure. Even if it looks crazy when you think about like an attack which might happen inside your company, think about it, can happen. So everyone who has access to your infrastructure might have at some point an opportunity to break it. So that's why it makes sense to have like a zero trust design on all your infrastructure parts. Right, a bit of like key management and custody, just in case you don't outsource this to like third parties. There's also like others like Circle and Fireblocks, for example. They've also managed infrastructures where you can tap in with an API and let them handle all the secure key generation. Right, then there's also like secret management with like an open source tool, which is called OpenBOW, which is quite amazing if you not want to go into HashiCorp, which was recently acquired and has some disadvantages right now based on the acquisition, and also maybe based on the cost. So look into this. And then best practices for key management are separate roles, for example, for minting, admin, operations in general, accounting, for example. Right, and then there's make as possible limit permissions to any of these roles, so not overpower any of these roles. Does definitely make sense, and monitor a key usage in real time. Also monitor like all these roles, what kind of execution they are doing. There's a couple of integrations you could do, open source tools where you can like monitor all the roles, what are they doing on chain, and then get a message into your Slack or into your Telegram account. So you know all the time that even if you're sleeping, get it at least monitored or get someone else to see the notification. So that definitely makes sense. And use time logs for critical actions. So if there's like maybe a huge transfer of funds from one account to another, make sure there's a time lock on it, like that it takes like at least 5 hours or 10 hours or like a day until the transaction gets performed. So you can always like do an emergency withdrawal or like do an emergency action to make sure it's not happening until you give it like a proper approval with your multi-signature wallets or like as like an owner of the company. Right, let's see into like common attack vectors. It's more like kind of a prevention, so you know what could happen, and then I can't give you like all the advices right now to like how you prevent this, but give you like an insight on like what might happen to your infrastructure and how can you at least like think about it in terms of like how you choose the right architecture for it. So smart contract vulnerabilities, of course, we all know them. That's like common thing in crypto. And I think they're getting more and more right now, the exploits, also based most probably on the usage of AI to get as much as possible tries and variation of the attacks. So that's why we most probably see right now lots of attacks on the smart contract side. That's why I also say like use AI tools, put it on your infrastructure, put it on your smart contracts, and let it just breach or like just do some penetration testing on your infrastructure. This gives you at least like some percentage of possibility that you find something, at least the easy ones. And it's always hard if you see like you get hacked by an easy one. So that saves you a bit of time. Yeah, of course, like private key compromises. That's also like one of the attack vectors which we see commonly, and this is mostly like a mixture of like, and that's why we have like the key inside. Attackers combine multiple weaknesses of your infrastructure, not just one bug. So especially with the private key one, there's mostly in most cases you see like social engineering attacks happening before, and to gain the trust of your employees or gain the trust of yourself, and getting access to your infrastructure in multiple ways. And just expect like the social engineering attacks can take a while. They can take years, of course. So just make sure especially like in your organization and in your infrastructure layer, you have multiple ways to prevent things which can make your company break or like put funds at risk. So you can at least like have some prevention when something happens. And especially like if your TVL is like going bigger than like a few millions, then you expect this to happen. Especially like we can talk like out of our own company, there's happening like every day social engineering attacks. We see it like on a daily basis. Even if it's like this typical job scams where fake recruiter reaching out and they claiming they are from our company and talking to you like someone from our company might do, and lure you into like downloading a GitHub repository and let you do like an MVP or something, and let it execute the code base. And then it's where it's starting to happen. There's mostly like a VS Code, like hidden VS Code folder where you get like some external payloads, and that's where it's starting. Luckily, like I've got lots of feedback from developers, and then they're reaching out and then applying for like a real job at our company, and then saying like I haven't downloaded. But of course, like if you are like looking for a job and then you see like a great opportunity, and then you might do that, and then it's already too late. But we're trying to like prevent like doing as much proactive stuff as possible. But yeah, it's hard to catch up on this. There's like lots of people in the world which have enough time to do some black hacking stuff. Yeah, Oracle manipulation. most probably seen that a lot of times. Just recently, on a stablecoin, can't remember right now the name of the stablecoin. Maybe someone can put it into the chat. There were just recently like a stablecoin hacked on Oracle manipulation. Bridges, cross-chain exploits. Luckily, this is not happening that often right now anymore. There's more like better ways right now to bridge assets, especially if you look into the Circle ecosystem. They have like an own mechanism to bridge stable coins in a way they are not that much on risk like that we had it before. Like when we look into like the early DeFi days, we had like all this like proprietary bridges where everyone was wrapping stable coins and wrapping stable coins again, and then deploying their own contracts. So it hasn't been really like the original issuer anymore. It was like a different issuer, which was like the bridge itself. And then there was lots of like new risk vectors, right, as Resolve USD, exactly, this one. There's been new risk vectors attached to the stablecoin itself. So this is happening not many times anymore, luckily. Deep exploration, similar to the Oracle manipulation. And of course, like social engineering attacks. Like social engineering attacks, they can happen to your developers, they can happen to yourself. There's not really like something where you should like, which is like saying to you like, okay, where I can give you an advice, like this is like in a social engineering attack. They can happen over weeks, they can happen over months. You're not even like recognizing it. It might be someone introduced by a teammate or a good friend, but they already got like social engineered attacked. So they're gaining then the trust over a friend of you, and then you get introduced, and of course you're trusting the next one as well, because it's your friend who introduced that one, right? That person, and then the thing's starting to get go sideways at some point where you might download something, exploit gets installed, this kind of stuff. I would say like email scams getting less and less, but they're getting more sophisticated. Like they're getting better, so you can't even guess if it's like from the real company or not. I mean, you always see it if you look into the source code of the email address, the source code of the email itself. But you might not do it because you're in a rush and you see like, oh, there's a withdrawal of Coinbase happened, but I'm not initiated that. You click on the button and that's happening already. I've just seen today, like on LinkedIn, an interesting new exploit, which was like happening over like a few months for a venture capital fund. And they got like a term sheet, and it was looking like a Google Docs, but it was not a Google Docs. It was like a one-on-one copy of Google Docs with like an encryption inside the actual Google Doc, which you had to install on your terminal. Didn't get executed, but that was like that's kind of like the quality of attacks you can face right now. So the website's getting better and better. The clones of websites getting better. The emails getting better. Of course, with help of AI. If one side is having AI, the other side has AI as well. So it's kind of a battle of like both sides attacking themselves. So best thing is like always think twice if it's like not your direct team member and not seeing them. Even if you have them on a video meeting, you might not be expecting the right person. That's how far it's going right now. Could be even a deep fake. And then dependency risk. I think someone put it into the chat already. The most common one, which just happened, I think was last year, is a supply chain attack on NPM packages, which is kind of dangerous, especially if you white code. And if everyone who is white coding right now here in this chat, always make sure what kind of dependencies you are installing. There might be already like a side load of like a vulnerability inside an NPM package. And then I've put like this kind of like nice picture of some person from North Korea here on the right side. This was like kind of like normal IT workers. You just hired them. They worked for your company for months. And then at some point you realized they installed vectors inside your code base for years. And you just paid for that. You just paid them their salaries to do this. So always do like due diligence on your employees. I think this is one of the most important things, which I can recommend if you like on the executive side. Good due diligence on your employees. Like it doesn't matter if like it's like video meetings, then like verification of the ID. also making sure like you got like some good background information. And then at the end of the day, it's a bit of gut feeling, right? Where it's going. And then like, what else do we have? Dependency risk, like for your infrastructure, of course, like other stable coins, if you're integrating stable coins, they could be at risk as well. And then facing issues for your protocol or your infrastructure as well. Same as custody providers. I mean, as less attacks on custody, like on the big ones we had in the past, like it's really like less attacks, which have been successful. Always make sure you got a plan B. And then, of course, also with your external developer teams or freelancers which you are hiring, even if they're not from North Korea, make sure you do a good due diligence on them and always have like this zero trust design in place, however it will look like for your organization. But make sure, like, I mean, at the end of the day, a dev in your team has access to all your keys, to most of the services if you're just a small team. So make sure you know what kind of risk you are facing. And then once you're aware of the risk, you are able to make like proper decisions. And then, of course, monitoring. I think there's really less, especially like if you're like in a startup area, like startup stage, you might not really care on monitoring, especially like on all the edges which you might face. But it definitely makes sense to think about it as long as you grow, to add as much monitoring as possible to all these parts of your infrastructure. And then, of course, like review the logs a lot of times, or make sure like you get at least like the higher critical log parts sent to your Telegram or sent to your Slack, somewhere where you're reading it definitely and it's not getting lost. That's quite important. And then now, if you heard all this stuff and you're still here, you made it. It might sound a bit all of this stuff like, yeah, everything is burning already around you. But I think like as long as you are aware of the risks that might be involved, you are able to like make correct prevention of this stuff, right? So this is like, I think the most important stuff added here. Also the angry German kid, our company is from Germany, so he's quite famous. So that might be you ending up not thinking about all the security factors at some point. All right, I open up the Q&A, and then afterwards you get like a QR code which you can scan and then get access to the perks. All right. Yeah, S6092, feel free, it's your stage.
Yeah. So thank you. Actually, I have dialed it from a couple of IDs because I wasn't sure which one is going to let me in. But anyways, brilliant presentation. Really like the way you have presented it. I have one question. Why did you miss the liability insurance part of it? I'll tell you from our personal experience. So we have a client, like every Friday they will do a stablecoin payment. But the problem is bank close at 2 p.m. MST. There is no wire going after 2 p.m. MST. So there's a hard lock every day, which is 4 p.m. EST. So I used to work in stuff, so lot of background knowledge here. So so there was a time. So our client asked, what will happen to the money during that weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and they have a strict guideline that they're gonna do every Friday this payment. So we end up getting a liability insurance on top of the funds.